With social media becoming more and more important for the hotel sector, ESSEC Business School, in conjunction with HVS Executive Search, has decided to organise a panel on social media management within the hospitality sector. We have taken some of Europe's best brands, Sofitel, Rezidor, ReviewPro and White Line hotels, and we have invited some of the managers responsible for social media to come and share their experience with you.
Well, at the moment, hotel companies are doing a pretty good job of being on social media, such as a Facebook page, such as being on Twitter, and they're monitoring what people are saying through TripAdvisor and other forums. Who's on Facebook? Who tweets? Who's on LinkedIn? Who uses TripAdvisor when booking a trip? But they're not taking it to the next level in terms of engaging with customers and clients to really get into a meaningful two-way dialogue, and that's the next stage, and will be interesting to hear tonight from our panelists as to how they're actually achieving that or trying to.
Well, Chris, I think the answer is that I don't think hotels really have woken up to social media at this stage. One of the things that I've done recently is done a benchmark of social media use by hotel companies, and honestly I can say the results are shocking. While a lot of hotel companies are present on social media channels, their following in terms of number of fans or followers or subscribers is measured in the thousands rather than the 10,000s or the hundreds of thousands, which is where it should be. On top of that, even when they have a good level of people signed up, there's no activity on their accounts. They're not using the opportunity to interact with their customers. And even when they do interact with their customers aren't interested because nobody's liking or commenting or retweeting. If we don't get our act in gear, somebody else is going to come along and steal this opportunity away from us.
Firstly, I'd like to say I don't think the hospitality industry is alone in not embracing social media. Hotel structures needing to change. But I don't think the hotel industry is necessarily the worst one on the block. But I think it has the best opportunity to embrace this, and it shouldn't be afraid.
Return on investment is a big question, always a tricky one with marketing in terms of how do you get your bang for your buck. Social media is something which, you know, for very little outlay, you can actually get quite a big result if you're creative and use it appropriately. I mean, these are online social media, which doesn't actually cost a lot to invest in other than the human element. So the interesting question is how are companies actually measuring and tracking that?
If I were to summarize those and other activities that we currently have afoot for Rezidor, we're using social media as a means to drive consumers back to the brand website. The kind of thing we've always done is drive traffic, expand reach, essentially.
Again, another interesting topic for tonight in terms of do hotel companies have a very strict policy in terms of who can be on social media on behalf of the hotel company? Is a hotel allowed to be having a Facebook page? Is that message consistent with what the head office wants to put out? Then there's all sorts of policies around security and just the general message that's being conveyed, an interaction that people are having on social media, and is this compliant by brand standards?
There are very few companies that are going to the level of using any of the social media channels either for real interaction with their customers, so in terms of responding to their comments if they have complaints, or actually sending something that's of interest to them. And that's a big, big challenge because we now have to integrate social media with customer relationship management, with distribution, with our direct website, with what we're doing in all our other channels. It's a massive, massive task. And personally, I don't see very many hotel companies devoting the resources to doing it. Those that do are having a lot of success.
There's a lot of variation, right? It depends on what segment, what size hotel group you're talking about. In fact, what we're seeing is some of the most, the groups that are having the biggest success tend to be medium-sized chains. The hotels are really succeeding, are focusing on one key thing, which is content, generating content. The brands that are really leveraging social media, obviously they view this as a conversation that they play a part in. And what instigates or starts a conversation and makes it more enriching for everyone is based on content. And that content could be their blog, It could be original content in Twitter. It could be videos, and there are a number of have a clear focus on developing original, valuable content to the people that are using these different platforms.
And you need to suddenly start having the resources to manage that feedback feed real time all the time. I think customers want that responsiveness; they expect it. One of the challenges we have in a traditional sense in a hotel environment is we want customers that are experiencing less than they expected to tell us immediately, not tweet some call center 600 miles away, but if that's what they choose to do, we're going to have to be there to be able to.
So in the hotel industry, we pride ourselves on our customer service and our interaction and building relationships with customers. We don't seem to be able to do this. I think that's a big, big problem.
Basically, it changes the whole game. It changes. It's not just changing things related to the brand. It's turned the way that the hotel sector or the hotelier interfaces with its client and potential client absolutely upside down.
I think it's a mind shift. We feel that via this technological mean, we will lose out on something. And it's true that this will answer the resources. At the moment, we are still looking at the best way to encompass this, because definitely the resources should be in the hotels.
I'm concerned about social media as an area of discipline being swallowed by marketing. We see it as a dialogue with the customer, an opportunity to get feedback from the customer that's valuable. And I have to say, to your point, Geoffray, that the dialogue you have with the customer varies depending on the brand. But I want to encourage the environment that attracts that kind of customer who thinks that's an important thing to say about themselves. It's an area of undertaking that covers a lot of disciplines, as I said. It's human resources, so it's our employees, it's our customers, it's recruitment, it's customer feedback. We can correlate this with a lot of other sources of data, as we were discussing, to get a broader picture. So there's a lot of opportunity here in measuring this information and applying it in the business in different ways to achieve different things. So I think we're going to have somebody who's in a role to deal with social media, whatever that is in quotation marks. But as we discover the environment, we're going to expand the expertise and cut it into channels so that the interaction with the discipline is adapted to different needs. That strategy has to be defined in-house, and then you need to look at the resources you have both internally and resources available externally so that you can acquire the expertise that's necessary to execute the strategy and adapt the strategy as it evolves over time.
You know, you have to be very careful. This was created to be socializing with my friends, and it has many avenues, and I don't think you can use the word broadcasting anymore. You know, you've got to tailor cast. You've got to be careful about what you're saying to her, but you've already got a social footprint, whether you like it or not. You know, you can manage people, what they're saying about you if you wish to, but they're going to write about you anyway. Use your personality to write not just what the concierge is doing right now or where you're getting your vegetables from, but real stories. Look at around your area, who's tweeting. You know, it's so easy with Google Real Time. Just type it in and see who's writing about your area, link into them, and then I think you have content. It's not just about your own content. It's about using people around you that are already writing, already featuring you as a destination. I think this for the hotels in the future is a key way into new markets. I think everybody should get advice from external sources, whatever industry you're in. You know, you're not specialists on everything, and you can't be. So do get specialist help.
One of the things I've seen with several companies, if they've moved from a situation where they've been experimenting with different social media channels, and it's been messy and it's been amateur, but it's been genuine, and then they go off and they hire a company, usually a PR company, to come in and start writing the Facebook posts and the tweets and posting the videos for them, and very, very quickly it becomes just a little bit too professional, too slick, and it loses the contact with the actual, whether it be the brand or the property. The brand has got one issue, but the property really has the opportunity to build up relationships with its customers. Even the big companies, they're starting to lose it again. So, you know, you said, are we waking up? Maybe we're going back to sleep.
what's holding the industry back, I think we'll see tonight, whether it's a resource issue, whether it's a knowledge issue. I think at this point, people are experimenting and making it up as they go along, so there's a bit of a knowledge gap, and I think 5 years from now we'll look back and think, were we really doing it like that? Because we'd have learned so much, but at the moment it's still very much experimental. So I think hotel companies have just got to go into the challenge with both feet and see what works.
The impact, if you look at the absolute influence factor of driving hotel decisions, I would argue that that's still very, very low. It's going to change, and it is changing.
Can we do a poll? How many people have ever asked their friends on Facebook for a recommendation for a hotel? How many people have used TripAdvisor?
I think earlier was every hand.
Or Booking, or Veneti, or Holiday Check.
I know of one luxury hotel group where the general managers now, instead of reviewing the previous night occupancy and rate, the first thing they check is their TripAdvisor reviews in the morning, because when head office calls. I mean, Geoffray, is that the case at Sofitel? Is TripAdvisor keeping you awake?
Yes, for sure. Yes, it's high on our agenda, definitely.
Who speaks for the brand? Who represents the brand? And that's reflected also in the guidelines that we have for instance, you want a policy? One of our policies is that the only person who can react to a TripAdvisor comment by any customer is the general manager of the hotel. Okay? And the general manager is not permitted to have another person react to those comments and sign their name for it. We say, you're in charge of the business. These are your customers. If a customer expresses something that is a concern to your business, you need, as an individual, they are the voice of the business on TripAdvisor and on other sites for customer feedback.
One of the companies that I've done some work with, we faced exactly this problem. We put in place a policy, which was that everybody had to respond to all negative reviews, and I think it was 30% of positive reviews within, I think we said 72 hours of the review being posted, which is not something that's very, very hard to do. Basically, nobody did it. They all did it for about a week, and then nobody did it. So we had to get tough. We tied 10% of the bonus of the general manager to a score generated based on various review sites. And very, very quickly, we started to see the scores on for these hotels going up.
I think what you have to learn as a hotelier, if a customer expectation, it goes back to managing expectation, is to learn from this. Find out, how did that customer book you? Where did they come from? Maybe on a site you're being described in the wrong way. So for me, it's much more intensive than just saying, okay, we had a complaint, let's get back to it. You need to analyze this, but this comes back to the whole social media. You can't just go out there blotting away. You need feedback. You need to see what's being said about you. You need to measure it. And like anything, you know, from a marketing branding point of view, you need to measure this. You know, it again comes back to this mass broadcasting. So again, it is the sensibility of cultures, but I think you can embrace that. And if you find that you always have a problem between certain nationalities, talk about it. It is transparency, but if you have a good hotel management, you should be aware of your problems immediately. Because most TripAdvisor comments, unlike Twitter, are in the past. So it's very hard to rectify them, especially writing in a foreign language.
But what's happened along the way is all the OTAs around the world realize two things. They realize that consumers, when they go to book, if there aren't reviews, they go somewhere else looking for reviews, right? So this is critical. So every OTA in the world woke up over the last 2 years and realized if they don't have reviews, their sales in that site are impacted. The OTA market is quickly getting increasingly fragmented, and that fragmentation is creating complexity for the hotelier, but it's creating a huge opportunity.